I'm hoping. Yes, ma'am, your camera, please move it. Yes, wonderful. Hello, ma'am. Welcome to our live program.
Hi, thank
And it
you.
is so good to have you on board. And very quickly, ma'am, with so many hats that you've been wearing, you are wearing, you're also a trainer, you've been a trainer, banker. I was telling our guests who have joined, you've been trainer, you've been a lawyer, you've been a, you are right now into teaching communications to students also. So what is it? What has, how does it all begin? How does learning work for you? And so, yeah, what is learning and how did it all begin for you from your perspective, ma'am?
Um, well, Nupur, I love to call myself. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, very much
Can you?
so.
Okay. So, Nupur, it's like this. For the last 35 years, I have been calling myself a Chir Vidyarthi. So, this is a term from Sanskrit, and Chir means eternal, and Vidyarthi means a student. So
Absolutely.
I'd like to believe that I am a Chir Vidyarthi who just is passionate about learning and who feels that even at this age, and I call myself 62 years young,
Nice.
so even at this age, there's so much more to learn. There's just no end to it. And I think classroom is the place where I am the happiest, and both ends of the classroom really. So whether I am there as a trainer, teacher, I'm fascinated, and I am more than fascinated when I'm sitting there as a student, always there with my empty cup, ready to take my fill. I enjoy it the utmost.
Ma'am, that's actually something because sometimes what happens is people who are on the other side, on the teaching side, think that they know all or they have it all and they are in a giving position. So they stop learning because of that. But to
Yeah.
call oneself a all-time learners is something where it all begins, I believe. That's the learning psychology we have to learn. And that
Correct.
is where my next question is, how does that come about from the psyche perspective, ma'am, from the psychological perspective, how does one kind of reinvent oneself to say, okay, now I am open to learning because it's all about openness to learning. So how do you
Sure.
kind of bring about that mindset?
I have studied, not exactly in a formal way, but I have been familiar with human psychology. And I believe that technology may go wherever it may, and it's making tremendous strides in the world. But I genuinely believe there is no equally wonderful machine as compared to what the Almighty has given us, the human brain. You know, the
Absolutely.
human brain, and I'm eternally fascinated by the workings of the human brain, it is so much more powerful, more resilient, more multidimensional, and more, absolutely marvelous the way the brain functions. So, when I first came across this concept, and I think it happened when I was doing my diploma in teaching, I studied about the whole thing about child development, the way the human mind continues to work, and it doesn't rest right up to one's last breath. So, having such a marvelous equipment and not being able to put it to optimum use, I would say would be human tragedy. So,
Absolutely.
how is it possible that, one says enough and no more? One can't. The fascination has to continue lifelong. And I don't know whether I should bring this aspect here or whether you'd like to ask me in some other question of yours as to how I really, my passion for learning took wing. It happened actually in a in a situation which was adverse. So,
Okay.
maybe that would be an answer to a specific question if you want to ask one.
But ma'am, you can actually go ahead, because what actually led you? Because if there is an adversity, so yes,
Yeah,
there are questions around it that I have. Because what my next question was in terms of what challenges did you face, or what is
right.
adversity which when it comes to learning, because we all face
Yeah,
through that, and it's like our approach is sometimes we give up learning, we give up and we say no more, we've done
yeah,
enough, or we
yeah.
are kind of go ahead. So that's where I want to ask you that.
Okay. So you see, it so happened that first of all, I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that when I was growing up in my generation, there was no such thing as career guidance. You know,
Correct.
so anybody who was a good student, and I was a good student, in fact, at the risk of sounding immodest, I may say that I was more of a topper than anything else. So academically excellent, but there was no clue as to what ultimately will I do by way of a profession. So after completing my bachelor's in English literature from Jesus and Mary College, Delhi University, and doing my 1 year's diploma in teaching and 3 years of professional learning in law, LLB, I had no clue as to what I would become, you see, professionally. So I sat for this bank probationary officer's exam, and I always say, unfortunately, I got into it. I got selected. Now, why I say unfortunate is, within 1 week of being in PNB, I joined Punjab National Bank. And I will not badmouth the organization. It's a great organization. It's just that Shikha Gupta was a square peg in a round hole. I was just never meant to be a banker. So it was then I realized that Shikha, unless and until you do something about it, you would have wasted your education, right? However, I'm talking about the year 1983, the pre-liberalization economy, and having got such a prestigious, well-paying, respectable job, it's not as if I could have just quit, you know. So I knew that I had to stay in the job and yet retain my basic thirst, my passion for interesting things like literature and reading and knowing more about psychology, how people behave, why do they do what they do, etc., etc. So it was an adversity. Every day from 9 to 5, I was sitting in a seat where my heart just was not there. So that's when this idea came to me that, look, you are here for about 7 or 8 hours in the day, but you have the other parts of the day. The remaining 16 hours are all yours. So
Correct.
why don't you put those to some good use? So what I started doing is I started attending, I decided that I will keep upgrading my skills. Okay, nothing to do with banking, but I realized that I had been a very left brain person. So I was all about logic, rationality, language, etc., which are, the cognitive functions of the brain.
Correct.
But I had not developed my right brain, which is the center for creativity, for art, for culture, emotions, passion, etc. So I said, Shikha, now let's start developing the right brain. So what I did was, and Delhi is the marvelous place for all that. You know, I always compare Delhi with a buffet table. So just like a buffet table has a variety of food for you to pick from, Delhi is the kind of place which has everything on offer. You can go and attend seminars and conferences and workshops and courses and skills of all possible kinds. So here I was, every other day I would enroll myself in some workshop, whether it was art appreciation, it was rural craft traditions of India, it was HR, it was cinema. And when I say cinema, it's not only, it's not at all the Bollywood popular cinema. So there was this marvelous workshop that I attended um, under the aegis of a gentleman called Dr. P.K. Nair, who used to be a faculty with the Pune Film Development Institute. And he also used to head the National Film Archives of India. And this gentleman conducted a 70 hours workshop on cinema and world cinema.
Wow.
So there was Fellini and Rossellini and, you name, and of course there was Satyajit Ray and Shyam Benegal, and there was, films from Italy and Japan and Russia and Cuba and you name it. And I was transfixed. I said, wow, so I kept learning, kept attending. And then when India Habitat Center started in Lodi Road in the year 2000, every other day Shikha Gupta was enrolling for some workshop or the other, European art, comparisons between European creativity, Indian creativity, and you name it. So that's when I really became a true, passionate, eager learner in the real sense of the word.
Ma'am, one question while you were telling me all this, I also was thinking that any point in learning during all this, did you feel that I'm learning so much, but what will happen of it? What will be the result of it? So there is this, you develop this love for learning while, but on the other side, we're also result oriented. We've been developed as result oriented. So did you feel that, क्या होगा मेरी इतनी सारी learning का, क्या करूँगी मैं इसका? So
yeah. So, can I answer that?
Yes, please, ma'am.
Okay, so that's a very nice question you've asked, and I'll answer it in two parts. See, the first thing is, having been a student of English literature, I was familiar with the concept of art for art's sake. Nice. So you see, this is the theory which was propounded around the time when Aristotle was there. That art doesn't necessarily have to serve a purpose. Literature is never written to serve a purpose. It has the joy that it brings to a human being who reads good literature or who watches good art cannot be quantified in terms of a pragmatic, monetary, professional gain, So it has its own joy. And very nicely, Nupur, जो अंग्रेजों ने कहा है art for art's sake, the same philosophy exists in our Indian Shastras, where they say Swanta Sukhai. Nice. So you see, Sanskrit has these two words called Swanta Sukhaya, which means for my own pleasure. So if I sing, say for example, if I sing, now I may sing horribly, and I'm not talking of Shikha, I'm talking of any human being who wants to, there is a happy moment and the heart wants to just sing. Now, the kind of notes that come from your throat may be ridiculously bad. You may not have sur or tal ki pehchan. Correct? So you're not singing on the stage, but you're singing it for your joy. That is Swanta Sukhai. Your heart is overjoyed. It is leaping in happiness. It's your moment of bliss. It's your self-expression. And it's bringing you happiness. So why does it have to serve any concrete purpose? So that's one part of my question. The second part, Nupur, is that even though when I was doing these workshops, I had not consciously planned anything, that Shikha has got this certificate or that certificate or the other certificate. I was getting certificates and some courses were without certificates, but I was not doing it for certificates. skills, right? But you see, the Almighty, in His wisdom, He has a place and a pattern for all of us. Now,
Correct.
how I benefited, it's just marvelous. So you see, after 17 years of working with Punjab National Bank, I got an opportunity to leave my job when the Reserve Bank of India, which is the controlling authority for all the banks, they offered a employee voluntary retirement scheme in the year 2000. Okay. And it was open to anyone who had completed 15 years of service. So I looked upon it as, I call it my great escape. I was one of the first people to pen that letter and opted for voluntary retirement. Yes, it was a big risk because I was 41 at that time, 41 years old. And it is not as if I had equipped myself with saleable skills. I did not have an MBA. I did not have, any experience with the corporates or what. So when I left the bank, and there were some skeptics who said, ये पता नहीं अपने आप को क्या समझते हैं ये लोग जो बैंक छोड़ के जा रहे हैं, इनको बाजार में 100 रुपए की नौकरी नहीं मिलने वाली. Okay, but you see, I had constantly cultivated these skills. I had read a lot about HR because my last posting was in the HR division of Punjab National Bank in the head office. So I had begun to write on topics of HR. Okay, assessment center, total quality management, core competence. So these newfangled theories, new for India at that time, which were emanating from the US campuses, the universities there.
Absolutely.
I was beginning to write on that, and I had adequate awareness of that. So when I started applying to places, it just so happened that a beautiful doorway opened for me. So there was this marvelous organization called Center for Education Management and Development. They were looking for trainers, and the director interviewed me. And believe me, after those 45 long minutes of discussion, she said to me, Shikha, how soon can you join me as a trainer? So I joined as a trainer, and believe me, it was like a dream job. And from then on, it's been one consultancy after another, and there's been no looking back.
That is something, that is exactly the basic learning I get from this is that no learning ever gets waste, and art for art's sake, maybe sometimes because we are right now in such, so we always say that, we have to have result oriented environment for even us, that and especially the younger generations who are coming, the millennials who are coming, for Gen X, like even us, we're all in that mindset कि जब तक है नहीं अभी and with the Gen Zs, I think what we need to tell them that art is for art's sake is very important learning which should be given now, and that will have results coming in, because like you said, and like that is a very live example that you've given us.
Sure.
You have been training and teaching senior professional in corporates. You have been training on communication the youth today. What difference do you see?
Well, if I'm brutally honest, I love teaching the young adults. Those are my favorite target group. So I worked with the Times of India group. One of my most wonderfully fulfilling assignments has been with Times Group. So I teach English. I have been teaching English to young men and women aged between 21 and 26 years. The kind of energy, the kind of enthusiasm, the kind of vibrance that I find in that room when I enter these people, enter the room where these people are waiting, it's like a whole new world. I just have to enter that room, and howsoever tired I may be, or howsoever low I may be feeling health wise, or whatever, but it's like the switch is turned on. And the moment I enter and start the discussion, because I don't focus, I'm not strictly bound by the syllabus. I teach them English, I teach them life skills, I'm teaching them how to succeed at interviews, how to do public speaking, how to present your best side, putting your best foot forward, presentation skills, personality development. So I become a 20-year-old myself with them. And what better way to stay young? So yes, I that's my favorite age group. However, I also like to deal with seasoned professionals, because in all humility, I must admit that dealing with people who have 10 to 15 years of experience in their bag is hugely enlightening for me, because I am learning a lot from them. Everybody doesn't have all kinds of experience. So my experience may have been with the bank, but I get to learn what happens in private companies, how corporates function, what is the latest HR thinking, compensation, etc., etc. And because my trainings are totally activity driven, not chalk and talk, and I do the least talking, I make them do the talking. So it's very fascinating there also. The only difference, if I may say, is that when you get older, and I'm not saying this for every human being, but people become somewhere complacent. The older you get, majority people start thinking of themselves as know-it-all. So, that attitude, that lady, what are you going to teach me which I don't know already? So one faces that sometimes. But then I never get thrown out of balance, because I go with utmost humility. I go ready to learn. And what I'm saying is not true of everybody, because age is nothing to do with chronology, Nupur. It's got nothing to do with biology. Age is an attitudinal function. So I've come across 50-year-olds who are enthusiastic and gung-ho, and I've come across 22 years old who feel that, oh God, life is so boring. So that is the comparison. But training is a wonderful field.
Absolutely. I mean, the energy, and somebody actually has a comment, very passionate. So yes,
Yeah.
they hear the passion in what you are saying right now.
Yeah.
I know when we were speaking, but then sometimes I believe there is a fear of learning also. That when you have grown, when you've grown also. Um, there's Yamini saying, I wish I follow your theory on age factor. Um, yeah, I think Yamini, what is the challenge? I would love for you to share what your challenge when it comes to air. Uh, Dasa says very inspiring, wonderful. So fear. What is the fear in terms of? And I think it should exist in both the cases, the younger ones, the youth and the older generations as well. So what is the fear involved in? So one is the know all factor, that we know all. Is there a fear factor also involved in it?
Okay. Yeah, there is sometimes, because see, India, and now things are changing in India. So I have a lot of hope. People are becoming more and more ready to receive new thinking, new ways of believing, behaving, doing. Yeah. So we are not as status quoist as we used to be up until, let's say, 10 years back. Look at our cinema. It's coming up with such new ideas. And I'm talking about mainstream Bollywood. And I write film reviews. So things are changing, but the fear factor is there, because people feel people are a little wary of leaving their deeply held, entrenched beliefs. They feel that if I compromise on my core beliefs, what is going to remain of me? Because they identify so much with their core beliefs that they fear that that is who they are. So they can't sort of abandon that, not realizing that, see, like I also have core beliefs. I call them my non-negotiables. Okay, my
Yeah.
non-negotiables. I will not compromise on those, come what may. But as human beings, Nupur, we should have as few non-negotiables as possible. So
Correct.
that I will not tell a lie is a non-negotiable. That I will respect a human being irrespective of their socio-economic status in life is a non-negotiable. The fact that I will always be for fair play and justice. You know, I will never like to take away something which is not rightfully mine. And I don't mean only object, I mean, conceptually also. So these are my non-negotiables, or the fact that I see myself as a Hindu, Sanatan Dharma. Now, the point is, and the last topic is a very hot potato in our country.
Correct.
But what I say is that, okay, let me take the hot potato. So if I say that I am a Sanatan Dharmi, that doesn't mean that I will not have respect for Christians or Muslims or Parsis. I have the utmost respect for all faiths. And the fact that I have books on Islam, I'm a product of a convent school, Christian missionary schools with Irish nuns. And I know all the stories of the Bible, you know, how Jesus turned fish and bread loaves into, he multiplied them and all. And I'm fascinated and I have so much of respect for Christianity or Islam, the good things there. So now the narrow-minded person would have a fear that if I'm a Sanatan Dharmi, then I can't say yes to the other faiths. That is where the problem happens. So let us be more open-minded. Let us have more faith in our innermost beliefs. That if they should be such few in number, and you should not feel scared कि अगर मैंने दूसरा point of view अपना लिया तो मेरा अपना खो जाएगा. आपका अपना नहीं खोएगा. You
There
can
is
have
certain-
this plus this, that, and the other.
Yeah, that's something very difficult to kind of take in nowadays because people want to say, "Ya to mera hai, ya tumhara. It's my way or highway."
Exactly. Exactly.
I see there, and see, I mean, there is so much, and I think that is one. We're almost at the end of today's session. So, few final what my takings from this session has been that learning is an everlasting journey and we should never ever stop learning. The passion for learning comes from within and the concept should be something like the like you said, art for art's sake, sometimes learning for learning's sake
Yes. Yes.
should be given, and sometimes, personally, even for me, that is a learning because when I learn something, I'm like, even when I read something, I'm like, why am I reading this? What good will it do for me? So I think that concept has to go through and as a culture be instilled because we are all very result oriented nowadays. So sometimes leisure and result have to go side by side. Some
Correct.
few final words of wisdom, the vows for our listeners.
Okay, I'll just share my all-time favorite quote as a trainer, as an educator. So Michelangelo, when he was asked about his sculpture, Michelangelo said something very extraordinary. He said, I saw the angel in the marble and I carved until I set him free. So now what he means here is, like Michelangelo, I as a trainer have to start from the belief that the angel is already there in the marble. Every human being has unlimited potential. It's my job as a sculptor, as an educator, to keep chipping away the extra marble so that the angel emerges in all its resplendent glory, because the
Beautiful.
angel is there. So I am not creating any angels. When I go to my classroom, I go with utmost humility that they are the ones. I just have to help them realize that angel which lies within them, the extraordinary, inexhaustible reservoirs of beauty, wisdom, personality, strength, courage, talent. Um, uh, you know, human potential is unlimited. So I don't have to create any angels. I just have to help them discover it. Like Michelangelo discovers the angel.
That is a wonderful simile, I would say. I mean, that's wonderful, and I have no words beyond it. Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming and sharing your wisdom. I would love to have you back for another session on what you share, maybe one of the specialized sessions, maybe something on interviewing or presentation skills, or
Sure.
maybe people who would like to kind of say how they go back for interviewing after taking a gap. So thank you so much once again for being here. It was lovely, lovely to have you here.
Thank you, Nupur. Thank you for giving me an opportunity. And I hope I didn't talk too much because I'm a very, very talkative person. Thank you.
You are wonderful, ma'am. You are wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Signing off.
Thank you.
Thank you all
Bye bye.
for joining in and being there. This will also be on
Thanks.
my YouTube. Very good session is what Paul says. Thank you, Paul. Signing off.